Guys, welcome back to the shop today. My name is Austin. And this is Austin's off-road garage. Today we got another episode on the 3rd gen 4Runner. Today we're gonna, I guess we'll call it 5 things to do before I go wheeling. This weekend we're gonna head to Moab, do some rock crawling. So I wanna go over just 5 basic things that I do to the 4Runner every time before I take it out and beat it up for a weekend. So let's jump right in, have some fun, and do some pre-trip maintenance. Okay, first thing on the 5 things to do before I go wheeling is we're gonna check all the fluids, and we're gonna change the oil in the engine and the supercharger and my diffs. My heat cycle is done. I've put 500 miles on them. It's time to change the fluid. That's what they recommend. So we're gonna jump in, do the diffs first, then we'll jump up to the engine, and then I'm gonna show you how to do an oil change on a supercharger if you have one. All right, so underneath the truck on the front differential, if you've never changed the fluid in your diff, we'll kind of go through how to do it real quick. It's in a 10 millimeter Allen socket. It's on the driver's side. Just break that loose. I already broke mine loose, so it didn't look like a wuss to you guys. Get your oil pan ready. I think my seal is going bad too. I took the skid plate off. I had a little bit of oil on the skid plate, and I looked under here and I saw that the where this drain plug is had been leaking, so need to assess that situation. If I can get this thing out of here. It's a little slippery. Looks a little metallic-y. But that should be pretty normal. Those gears have to mesh and learn to love each other, so there's probably a little bit more material than normal. Hence why we're doing our fluid change. Okay, so we've reinstalled our drain bolt, cleaned it all up. I examined the crush washer that's on there. It looks good. I just tightened it a little bit tighter than I did last time. Let's move to how you fill this thing up. So our drain bolt is here. Your fill hole is here. So we're gonna remove this. Same size socket and everything. Just drop it on the ground like I did. And we're gonna I like to use like a pumper style fill. Makes it a lot easier than trying to get this awkward bottle in there. Speaking of that, I'm running Valvoline full synthetic 75 weight 140. It's kind of in between what ARB recommends for their front lockers and stuff like that. So let's get this thing filled up. I think it takes like 1.5 quarts or 1.25 quarts or something like that. I usually just fill it up till it starts pouring out. That way I know it's full. So let's do it. All right, so if you look closely, you can see how it's spilling out of that fill hole. We got her in there. All taken care of. We'll put this back in, tighten it down. The front diff is done. Little side note, I'm gonna throw this 10 mil socket, Allen socket, in my truck for the weekend because I don't carry one of these normally. And just with being new diffs down in Moab, I don't know. You just never know what's gonna happen. So I always try and bring as many tools as possible without overdoing it. So that's definitely going in the toolbox. All right, so we're here at the back of the truck. and it's essentially the same thing as the front, right? So drain bolt right here, fill bolt right here, both 24 mil bolts. So let's say you're in a situation where you just need to check your fluid, make sure it's good. Take that fill cap off, dip your pinky in there, and if you get fluid on it, your fluids are good. That's for someone who maybe hasn't done this before or is just getting into wheeling. But for you guys who know, you know. But in my case, we just put new gears in, like I said, and we're just flushing the old fluid out after our 500 miles. So, yep, let's pull this drain bolt real quick. Gonna get gear oil all over my hands. I don't really mind, but like gear oil is the worst. The worst oil out of them all. And again, it looks pretty dark, milky. That's because we got a lot of gear material in there from breaking these things in. So, gonna let it drain. We'll fill it up till it comes out that hole, and then our diffs are done and we'll move on. Bam, just like that. Starts to overflow. That's when I know she's full. Where did my bolt go? Sweet, I lost it. There it is. Plug the hole. I use a wrench on this one because of that park brake cable. Stripped the bolt out real quick. Snug it up. Good to go. All right, so we've got both diffs drained, filled, all cleaned up, no oil anywhere. It's good relief. Everything looks solid. Next up, we're gonna change the engine oil. So, remove the oil cap. Grab your handy dandy 14 millimeter. Here. Drain plug. Already cracked mine loose. Trying to be prepared. And dudes, that was pretty good. That is a black. Probably do. This thing's been pretty neglected the last year or so, so it's good to get out here and do these little things. So let that drain, and then we'll fill her up. So to change the oil filter, if you've never done it, a little fender liner here. Just remove the two clips holding that on. Your oil filter sits right there. I know it's terrible lighting. but it just gives you a direct shot. Just not spin it off. Make sure your oil pan's in the right spot, and that's how you remove the oil filter. It's time to add oil. We got the Valvoline synthetic, high mileage 5W30. I want to say these take usually about 5.5 quarts. We'll check it periodically. Ooh, liquid gold. I know these are some pretty basic tasks, but if you've never worked on a 3rd Gen 4Runner, or you're going on a wheeling trip and you need some basic maintenance tips, I hope this helps you guys. This is kind of my routine that I go through. Almost there. Not quite the whole 5 quarts. We'll let it settle and then we'll check it. Wife's out here helping me record, so don't mind the screeching and jibber jabber. But here you go. It's kind of probably hard to tell. Or let me do it again, sorry. About 5.5 quarts. Or a little less, but bam, oil's changed. Now I just let it run for like 5 minutes, check for leaks, check the level again. And then if it needs more, it needs more. If it doesn't, I just leave it or I add some. So that's how Austin changes oil. Brake fluid, check. Clutch, good. The washer fluid could be topped off, but we're good. So I think that's it for fluids. Everything looks nice, solid. Hi, wife. Hi. So yeah, a little bit of pre-trip maintenance. We're gonna continue on. We're gonna move on. We're gonna do joints. We're gonna grease everything, the whole drivetrain. And while we're at it, we'll check the lower ball joints and the tie rods. On the rear, there's really not much to do. Everything looks pretty solid, so let's get to it. All right, so we're under here checking the lower ball joints. Something that I do that you could either learn from or maybe it's useless, I don't know. I paint mark all my bolts. These tend to back out. You can shear them, it's a pain in the ass. So I paint mark them for a quick reference. But every time I go wheeling, I torque these things. 59 foot-pounds. It's easy to do. Let me set you down. Bam. Of course, forget that I have replaced a few, so let me grab a different socket. The reason I've replaced a few is I had a buddy get stuck on a trail, and I ended up lending him 2 of them out of one of my knuckles so we could both get home. This was on a Sunday. No hardware stores are open in Utah on a Sunday. This is awkward. I've done this with the tires on. This thing is harder on a creeper too. I need to get a lift so bad. Bam. Okay, that side's done. Let's jump over to this side. Same thing here. Jesus Louise. That was a little loose. One more 17. I think it might be time for some lower control arm bushing. But hopefully you saw any of that. But yeah, so highly recommend just paint marking these. It's just a quick reference, but always torque. Those bolts are probably the most important thing next to just visually inspecting the ball joints. The most common failure on these year rigs. So highly recommend doing that. So next what we're gonna do is check wheel bearings, any play, and any play in our ball joints as well. Simply just take the tire on top, bottom, give it a little wiggle. Feels pretty solid, then you have no play. Same thing for this side to side. Got a little steering play, but it's been since day one. I've done steering rack bushings, but maybe time for some tie rods. But that feels solid. Same thing here. Zero play. That clicking noise you can probably hear is just my steering wheel turning inside. But yeah, I think it might be time for some tie rods there. Or some lower ball joints, or not lower ball joints. Lower control arm bushings. It's like the only bushing I haven't replaced on this thing yet. Sweet, feels solid. Something else that I would regularly do is check the pads, the brakes. But last time I had my wheels off, I checked them, which was like a week ago. So this thing lives on jack stands. I'm always checking crap to make sure it's good. I know the brakes are solid. I know we have fluid because I just bled the brakes. I also checked the rear shoes. They look awesome. I replaced these not too long ago. So now we need to throw some grease on my control arms on these upper ball joints. And then another thing that I suggest you do periodically is grease your drive lines. Yet again, I did this just not too long ago because I had it out of the truck. It was on the bench. It was made super easy work. So highly recommend that. That's another one of my tips. Check all your joints. Make sure everything's solid, torqued to spec, greased up. Everything's looking good, so 4Runner is looking dialed. All right, it's too hard to film with having to hold the grease gun, get that on that Zerk. But yeah, just do a couple pumps per side. If you have these SPC control arms, it's good to do every now and then. So yeah, so step 1 was check fluids, which we've done. Step 2 was grease joints / torque everything down, all the joints. Check wheel bearings. So now we're on to step 3. Since we're gonna be driving a few hundred miles, we're gonna inspect the air pressure in the tires, make sure they're wearing nice. None of them are bulging, anything like that. It's always smart. We're also gonna check the air pressure in the spare. So let's get her done. All right, so you just saw me install that 4X Innovation skid plate. Talk about beef, dude. Thing is gnarly. I have to just straight beefy. I can jack the whole truck up off just the skid plate to get these jack stands under the frame. So we got the tires aired up, all inspected. Everything's looking solid. Oil's good, diff fluid's good, brake fluid's good. All these things are awesome. I did mention that we were going to change the oil on this supercharger. Unfortunately, I just checked my shipping notification and it's going to be here next week, which isn't going to work. So we'll do a video on that someday about how to change this. So stay tuned for that. Sorry I couldn't get it done today. So the next step, step 5, is the most important step of all. You got to put gas in your truck, have a good attitude, and go have some fun. So we're gonna set this thing down on the ground. We're gonna do a final torque of all the wheels. We're gonna go put some gas in it, and we're off to Moab, guys. So yeah, hopefully those 5 things are pretty basic, but hopefully those couple things right there help you guys get your truck trail worthy and just maintenance, you know, ready, safe to drive on the road, all that good stuff. Some people don't even think twice about doing this stuff. I've definitely done it. I've just winged it and went and had a good time without doing it, and I've been fine. Other times I haven't, and I've paid the price. So I kind of just do a few things here and there to check, make sure the rig's all good. But thanks for watching, dudes. Hanging out with me in the shop. The next place we're gonna see is in Moab. So give it a like, give it a subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe throw in a few tips and tricks of your own, or what you guys do to plan for a trip maintenance wise, and we'll see you next time.